Hey everybody, Agent Fluffy here, and welcome to my fanfic read of an Ace Attorney and MLP crossover. This one is called Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, The Equestrian Turnabouts by TheBronywiththeBowtie. So, his story is not finished yet. It's only got 2 complete cases, so I'm going to read the 2 cases. 2 complete cases. Well, I hope you enjoyed the first case. It's called Turnabout Muffin. Chapter 1, Turnabout Muffins. Part 1, Trial. It was early morning in Ponyville, around 9 o'clock a.m. to be exact. All was quiet at Cherokee Corner. They were expecting something big the next morning. Filthy Rich of Barnyard Bargains placed a large order of muffins for his daughter's birthday party. It was exciting news! The amount of money the cakes received for filling this order would no doubt be great. Inside the bakery, in a back room, the crates were sitting there, ready for delivery the next day. The cakes were upstairs, asleep along with their children, Carrot and Pound Cake, and their excitable kitchen hand, Pinkie Pie. But this silence would soon be broken when the door slowly cracked open. A mare tiptoed across the wooden floor, hardly making a sound. She made her way from the front door into the back room, where the muffin crates were. She quickly opened one and began taking each muffin out, and gently placing it into her tote bag. This was despicable! She was stealing the muffins! She had emptied almost every crate except for 2. Before the mare could begin emptying out the final crates, she heard crying, no doubt from one of the babies upstairs. She had panicked, afraid that one of the cakes would come downstairs and find her. In her haste, she had dropped the tote bag. Afraid of losing precious time, she grabbed as many muffins as she could in her hooves and made a break for the back door. Before she left, she muttered something to herself. Please, forgive me. Applejack had gotten up early that morning, as was custom, living a farm mare's life. After she sat up in her bed, she yawned deeply. Oh, morning already? She thought to herself. While she had grown accustomed to waking up at the crack of dawn every day, she had learned to appreciate the time she had to sleep, especially after the whole apple bucking season incident. She hopped down off her bed and began to walk down the wooden stairs. They creaked every so often due to the way their hoofs stood wood. Her first chore of the day was to begin her morning apple bucking before she had breakfast with the family. She felt the top of her head and was shocked to find nothing was there. Her trademark cowmare's hat wasn't on her head like it usually was. She looked around frantically, but was relieved to find it sitting there on the kitchen table. She must have left it down there the previous night before. As she trotted out of the Apple family farmhouse, she almost bumped into the male pony. He was a Pegasus stallion with a tan color coat, brown hair, and glasses. He wore a blue male pony's hat that matched his blue eyes. He reached inside his satchel and pulled out an envelope with his mouth. Got a letter here for Miss Applejack? He said through gritted teeth as he was holding the letter in his mouth. Yeah, that's me, Applejack said in reply. She took the letter in her hooves and paid the male stallion with 5 bits. As he began to take off into the sky, she wondered something. This wasn't the usual male pony who gave her the letters. Where was Derpy? She asked herself. Derpy Hoos was Ponyville's resident mail mare. Any mail delivered to or from any pony in the town was delivered by her. Sure, she was a bit clumsy and she messed up an order every now and again, but she was still dependable, and she literally worked for peanuts, or muffins rather. They were her favorite pastry. Applejack remembered how the last time she hosted the Apple family reunion, Derpy could hardly contain herself when she had to deliver apple sliced muffins to the farmhouse. The farm mare hastily opened the letter. Dear Applejack, I know it's early in the morning, and I know you have plenty of chores to be doing, but this is important. Come to the library immediately. It's urgent. One of our friends is in danger. I'll explain everything once you get here. Just please come. Sincerely, Princess Twilight Sparkle. Applejack was thoroughly surprised. She didn't expect to receive a letter from Twilight today, or for a long time, considering her well-read friend has recently become Princess of Equestria. She wondered why Twilight had returned to Ponyville today, and she wondered which one of her friends were in danger. Being the dependable pony she was, she knew she had to rush over immediately. She galloped at full speed, hoping to reach her friend's former home as fast as she could. As she looked around, she noticed that every pony was just going about their normal business. It seems none of them heard of Princess Twilight's return. The farm mayor supposed Twilight didn't ask for a royal escort for 2 reasons. 1, she could most likely teleport herself back to Ponyville. 2, because even though she was now an Alicorn princess, Twilight still likely liked to be treated as a normal pony and not as royalty. After a few minutes, she had finally arrived at her friend's treehouse. Not treehouse as in house up in a tree, as in the house was itself a tree. Applejack stepped up to the door, and not wanting to be rude by barging in, knocked on the door. "Spike! Door!" she heard from the inside. Applejack smiled at that. Wherever Twilight was, the baby dragon was no doubt far behind. He is her number 1 assistant, after all. "Alright, I got it!" she heard another voice on the inside. A few moments afterward, the door was opened. Applejack looked down to see the smiling face of Spike, Twilight's baby dragon assistant. "Applejack!" he shouted, happy to see her. "Howdy! Good to see you again, Spike," Applejack said, tipping her hat at him. "You too, it's been way too long," Spike responded. "Well, I understand. You and Twilight have royal duties to attend to and all," she said with a smile. "Yeah, that's kind of why we came back to Ponyville," Spike said, the smile disappearing from his face. "Come on inside, Twilight will explain." "Don't mind if I do," Applejack said heartily, taking a step inside the library. It was just as the Twilight had left it. Countless shelves, each adorned with countless amounts of books in any subject imaginable. The history of Equestria, different books concerning different types of magic. Applejack has even found a few books about apple farming on the days she would read books with her unicorn friend. These books were by apple family ancestors, of course. "Spike, who is it?" Twilight's voice was heard from upstairs. "It's Applejack!" Spike shouted back over her. "Oh, good! I'm on my way," Twilight excitedly said. Applejack knew she was here for something important, but she got a warm feeling in her chest. She hadn't seen Twilight in a long time, and she was excited to see one of her closest friends once again. She was also surprised to see that rather than taking the stairs, Twilight was slightly hovering above the staircase, flapping her newly earned wings, no doubt trying to get used to using them. As soon as she touched her hooves down the wooden floor of the library, she had adjusted her crown with one of her floor hooves. Twilight had grown accustomed to wearing her crown out after the whole incident with Sunset Shimmer. "Well, howdy, Princess Twilight," Applejack greeted her friend, courtesy to show respect. Twilight's cheeks blushed slightly when she did show. "Applejack, no need for formalities. You're my friend." "I know. That's why I did so." She giggled. Twilight giggled along with her friend. "Alright, look, I know it's been a long time since I've seen you, but this is important." "That's what's said in the letter," Applejack said, putting her chin, learning what this was all about. "I know. I also said one of our friends was in danger," Twilight said, a worried expression across her face. Applejack began to worry as well. Which one of her friends was it? Rainbow Dash? Fluttershy? Pinkie Pie? Rarity? The suspense is killing her. "Have you noticed that Derpy wasn't delivering the meal today?" Applejack felt that was an odd question. However, she answered honestly. It was her element after all. "Yeah, it was some other pony." "Why?" "Because it's Derpy! Derpy's in trouble!" Twilight shouted. Applejack let out a sigh of relief, thankful it wasn't one of her best friends that was in aforementioned trouble. But still, Derpy was one of her friends, and she was just as worried about her. "What did Derpy do?" Applejack asked. Derpy has gotten into trouble before, but it was mainly because most of the time Derpy was a bit of a clumsy side, knocking things over and messing up mail deliveries, and sometimes dropping heavy objects on top of a certain unicorn's head. It's not what she did do. It's what she didn't do. She's been framed, Applejack. Framed with theft! Twilight shouted. Applejack raised an eyebrow on that. Derpy? Stealing something? The mere thought was laughable. Derpy Hooves wasn't clever enough for that. But then again, Twilight did say she was framed. Whoa! Hang on there, partner, Applejack said, placing a hook on the royal friend's shoulders. How do you know about this? Twilight sighed. As the princess of Equestrian, I access all the records of each pony settlement. Ketslot, Manhattan, Trondheim, Ponyville, it's all there. Recently, something new has been put in the Ponyville's folder, and feeling nostalgic, I decided to take a look, and there I saw it, a dossier of theft. Some ponies stole at least 2,000 muffins from the Sugarcane Corner, and Derpy was the one blamed. Now it's starting to make more sense. Muffins? Derpy was absolutely crazy for the pastry. She would do anything to get her hoops on even the brand muffin. But Applejack didn't think the mailman would stoop so far as to steal them. Alright, tell me more. Of course, they don't know whether she really did it or not. So a trial's being held for her today in Ponyville, and Miles Edgeworth is prosecuting, Twilight explained in a nurturing tone of her voice. Applejack raised an eyebrow once again. Pardon me? Miles Edge who? Miles Edgeworth! Twilight shouted. The infamous prosecution attorney! He's one of Camelot's top prosecution lawyers! I read over a few of his previous cases. They all been guilty verdicts, and in almost every single one of those cases, that pony accused was innocent! Now that disturbed Applejack a tiny bit. Twilight levitated Edgeworth's record over to Applejack with her magic so she could see. She wasn't kidding. Nearly every single case written in Edgeworth's record ended with a guilty verdict. This doesn't look good for Derpy, Applejack stated, being honest about the situation. I know! We have to find her lawyer! Derpy can't defend herself! Twilight said. Now hang on, Twilight. Why don't you defend her yourself? Applejack asked. Twilight was a very knowledgeable mirror. What with all the books she read? Applejack was bright. Twilight could defend Derpy. She knew equestrian laws frontwards and backwards, but she shook her head. I could, but the courts won't allow it. They think the judge would be biased, with me being the princess and all. Applejack frowned. No other lawyer would defend Derpy. Not against an attorney like Edgeworth. But then something else caught her eye. Applejack looked closer at Edgeworth's record. Why? Look at this. Looks like old Leggy didn't win every case. Twilight levitated the file back over to her. What? What do you mean? She asked with a curious tone of voice. Look! Applejack said, pointing at something on the file. Look at that! The murder of Mia Fay, accused my Fay, found innocent. Twilight's eyes brightened. Really? How come I didn't see that? And look at this, Applejack continued. Murder Jack Hammer, the accused. Willpower found innocent. Twilight smiled a tiny bit. Well, that's good. Who was defending those clients? Applejack squinted her eyes, reading the case reports. Looks like they're defended by a pony named Phoenix Wright. Phoenix Wright? Twilight asked. That's no name for a pony. Well, I'll name her all. I think this is our lawyer. Applejack said, matter-of-fact sort of way. Twilight's eyes brightened at this. She looked closer to the folder. Are you sure? It says Phoenix is a rookie. She levitated a magnifying glass over the record so Applejack could get a better look. The farm mayor frowned at this. Now, I know he may be a rookie, but he's Derpy's best option. And it looks like he's the only attorney that hasn't lost to this Edgeworth guy. Now, where did say his office is? Twilight sighed. She was hoping she could get some pony more experienced to defend Derpy. It seems like Wright was her only option. Okay, we'll call Wright. What does it say his office is? Applejack squinted her eye again, trying to find the location of Phoenix's office somewhere in the mess of papers. Let's see, Twilight and Cola offices. Renew location. 1234 Hayseed Road. That's not too far from here, Twilight explained happiness and excitement. Well then, let's get going. When's trial gonna start anyway? Applejack asked her friend. Wait. Twilight took a look at her case report again. In about an hour. We better get going. She and Applejack ran out of the library. Spike, however, stood at the door. What do you want me to do? Leave me behind and go off some adventure. No, definitely feels like the old times, he said out loud to himself. Might as well just sweep up and make sure the library's clean when Twilight gets back like I used to do. This is a place, Twilight said, reading the address sign. 1234 Hayseed Road. The sign stood in front of a 2-floor building. It looks medieval in design, much like the other buildings in Ponyville. Twilight deducted the bottom floor was where the business happened. The top floor must be the so-called defense lawyer is. Well, might as well knock on this door, see if he's home, Applejack said as she stepped up to the door. She raised a hoof, however, just before she could knock on it. Applejack, wait! Applejack held her friend's hoof still in magic. Twilight! Applejack exclaimed in confusion. What tarnation you're doing? Look, Twilight said, posting a small note into the window door. Out working. Come back later. That's it then, Applejack declared sadly. He's off doing something else. Twilight frowned. This would mean the court would assign a lawyer to Derpy for her, and she doubted they would be able to beat Edgeworth. Well, we might as well go to the trial and provide moral support. The farmer nodded as she walked next to her friend. This was bad. Derpy was going to get convicted of a crime she didn't commit. But what a dinky! Applejack didn't know much about Derpy, but she knew that Derpy was a single mother of a small unicorn filly named Dinky. If Derpy was thrown in prison, Dinky would no doubt be put in the orphanage. It would probably be years before some pony adopts her. Who wanted the daughter of an alleged thief? The courthouse was large. It had an elegant appearance to it, and most courthouses too. At the top of the staircase leading to the large set of double doors. There was a stone carving of a blindfolded mirror staring on her hind legs, holding a double-edged sword in one hoof, and an equally balanced scale in the other. The statue was brutal symbolism. Today, judgment would be blind. Every pony settled down in their seats in the gallery as the trial was about to begin. Twilight heard a few whispers. He was like, "Is that Princess Twilight? What's she doing here? Shouldn't she be in Camelot?" Twilight merely ignored his remarks. She was more nervous about the trial. 3 more ponies would walk into the room. The first was a pony with a dark red coat. His key mark, it says scales, no doubt representing justice. His mare was gray, mane was gray, and well combed. He wore a cravat around his neck to give off the illusion he was wearing a suit. Most stallions in Camelot did that, to even further the assumption that he was from Camelot, he was a unicorn. He had a cold look about him. He gave off the expression that he was a no-nonsense kind of pony. He stood on the prosecutor's side of the room, looking over his notes while levitating over his unicorn magic. Next, 2 more ponies walked in. The first was unmistakably Derpy, nervous walking in, frowning at the whisper she was getting. There she is! She's no good thief! I feel bad for a child. They all truly believed they were guilty. Derpy looked like she was about ready to cry, but before she could, another pony put a hoof on her shoulder. She didn't calm down instantly. The stallion was an art pony. No wings or horn to be seen, with a peach-colored coat. He had a blue suit jacket with a red tie, and laughably spiky hair. His key mark was out of a golden defense towards his badge. He stepped over to his desk on the fence side. Once every pony was situated, and Balin cleared his throat. All right, the honorable judge, I'm in old coot. The judge seemed to rise up behind his desk, which was rather large. He had a view over every pony. He looked down in the court. You may be seated, he said. His voice was deep, but it was the kind of voice that demanded respect and projected authority. But it also sounded old. The judge did have a rather long and gray beard. The judge's horn glowed, as he was also a unicorn, and levitated a large gavel and banged on his desk. The sound resonating through the courtroom. Court is now in session for the trial of Mr. Boobs. Are both parties ready? He asked. Edgeworth nodded. The prosecution is ready, Your Honor. The pony in the blue suit across from him then spoke. The defense is ready, Your Honor. The judge nodded. Very well done. The prosecution may begin with its opening statement. Edgeworth nodded and cleared his throat. Of course, Your Honor. He sounded a tiny bit overconfident. Now, as many of you are aware, my client has claimed the suspect that stolen a large supply of muffins from his business. This may appear to be a rather silly claim at first, but from the information I gathered around town, it's been largely evident that the suspect is known for having a rather unhealthy muffin consumption, and has been known to obtain these muffins from others in less than law-abiding ways. Testimony is provided that she had raided the refrigerators of others in the past, leading to a very high probability in my client's favor. The judge nodded, then looked over the defense's side. All right then. Thank you, Mr. Edgeworth. Mr. Wright, you may make your opening statement. Right. Did they say right? Right, Twilight and Applejack were practically flabbergasted. This pony was Phoenix Wright? This must have been what the sign on his door was for. He's already taken Derpy's case. Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, the confident sound of his way through wasn't overconfident, like Edgeworth's. Now, I am aware of my client's little muffin problem, but I ask the court, doesn't this whole case seem a little sketchy? Why would my opponent's client get so bent out of shape over a few stolen muffins? Testimony shows that my client was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. I intend to prove my client is not guilty. She is a good mare at heart. We plead not guilty and ask the charges be dropped. The ponies in the gallery began conversing with each other. It was a dull roar. Most of what was being said was things like, is he insane? He's always guilty. Why doesn't he just give up? The judge banged on his gavel on his desk. Order! Order in the court! The gavel quickly quieted down. Edgeworth raised an eyebrow at what Phoenix was saying. He looked like he was deeply thinking about it. We shall see, Mr. Wright. And then looked at the judge. I would like to ask, what are your Honor's thoughts on the current situation at Hoof? The judge then looked at Edgeworth. Currently, I agree, Mr. Wright. When I read the case file this morning, I was a bit surprised to see it was just thievery. Oh well, Mr. Edgeworth, you may call your first witness. Twilight raised an eyebrow at that. Why would the judge just say, oh well, about something that was clearly fishy? She suspected maybe the judge wasn't very good at his job, but she decided to remain silent. She may have been a princess, but she wanted to remain respectful. Edgeworth nodded, unaffected by the judge's comment. Yes, Your Honor, I am paid to do my job, and I shall do it even if there's a case as simple as this. The prosecution calls Miss Golden Harvest to the stand. Derpy gasped loudly. He had a heartbroken look on her face. Carrot! Phoenix quickly put a hoof on her shoulder. Shh, just stay silent, Derpy. Carrot made her way to the witness stand. She looked like she was trying her best not to look at Derpy. This made Applejack narrow her eyes a little bit. She knew Derpy and Golden Harvest were friends. Why would she be testifying against her? Edgeworth nodded once. She made her way up there. Now, Miss Golden Harvest, or you prefer Carrot Top. That's your nickname, correct? Carrot Top was nicknamed Harvest and earned for two reasons. She was famous for a carrot farm she owned in Ponyville, and she had brightly colored orange meal made in the tail. It is fine, thank you, Mr. Prosecutor, she responded in a matter-of-fact sort of way. That made Phoenix put a hoof to his chin and thought, why would Carrot Top testify against her best friend/roommate? He said silently to himself. Very well then, Miss Golden Harvest, Edgeworth began. Is it true that you are good friends with the suspect? Roommates, in fact, am I correct? Carrot Top nodded. Yes, she moved in about a month ago. It is my understanding you often return home to find your refrigerator cleaned out, am I correct? Edgeworth asked. Carrot narrowed her eyes at Derpy, who noticed this and giggled nervously, while peering about her room with her wonky eyes. Yes, that is also correct, Carrot had said. Edgeworth did a slight gesture as he pointed at Derpy with his hoof. Were you involved in any way with the current case? Such as And did you notice the suspect with a large supply of muffins around the time the accusation stayed? Yes. Witness testimony. Carrot began. I can't say I was involved with the case, but I do remember being in the bakery on that day. I heard some noises coming from the kitchen, so I decided to check it out. I saw some pony did raid the kitchen, but I couldn't make it out. It was around 9 o'clock a.m. Later when I returned home, I did notice Derby with a large amount of muffins. I asked her about it, and she said she was never in the bakery, which I found hard to believe. When Carrot was finished, Edgeworth shook his head with a small smile on his face. He reared up on his hind legs and stuck his forelegs out in a wide-legged gesture. Seems slightly suspicious, does it not? He began. Given the knowledge of our suspect's reputation in this testimony, it is quite evident that this suspect is our criminal. That is, unless the defense has anything to say. He looked over at Phoenix, who was unfazed by the testimony, and Edgeworth's claims. The judge shook his head. It does seem like she's guilty, but first, Mr. Wright, you may begin a cross-examination. Logically, Your Honor. This was it. Here, Twilight and Applejack could see this lawyer truly was worth his salt. Cross-examination. Carrot then began to restate her testimony. I can't say I was involved in the case, but I do remember being in the bakery on that day. Hold it! Phoenix loudly shouted. Everybody looked surprised. This was definitely unorthodox. Never had Twilight seen a lawyer shout like that. You just contradicted yourself. If you were at the bakery, then you were involved in the case in question. Twilight's eyes widened. Not even she had noticed that. Carrot talked like a phoenix nervously. Oh, sorry. I guess I got a little flustered. The judge nodded his head. Understandable. Please continue, Miss Carrot Top. Carrot nodded and continued reinstating her testimony. I heard some noises coming from the kitchen, so I decided to check it out. I saw some pony did raid the kitchen, but I couldn't make them out. Hold it! Phoenix shouted again. You couldn't make them out? He asked. So you didn't notice anything? No gender, no main color, no cutie mark? No, I couldn't. Carrot choked out, looking a bit more nervous. Anyway, it was 9 o'clock a.m. Objection! Phoenix had shouted, pointing the left hoof at Carrot. Objection? Twilight thought to herself. What's wrong with her testimony? She wondered. Your Honor, there is a gaping hole in the witness's testimony, he stated. The judge looked at Phoenix, a bit wide-eyed. Really? What is it? He asked. Phoenix slammed his hoof down on his desk. She couldn't have been in the bakery at 9 o'clock a.m. because the bakery doesn't open until 10 o'clock a.m. A whole hour after the time mentioned. He then put his hooves on his waist, after sitting up on his hind legs, looking rather sure of himself. And I can prove it, with this sign that says the business hours. He placed it on his desk. There they were, clear as day, all the business hours. Twilight grinned at that. That obviously meant he must have done some investigating himself beforehand. So you can, the judge said, looking rather impressed. So, Miss Carrot Top, please explain why they were at the bakery a full hour before they opened. Carrot looked around nervously. I wasn't. I just got the time wrong. Objection! This time it's been shouted by Miles Edgeworth, looking rather unsuppressed. She simply got the time wrong, Mr. Wright. Take a look at the poor mare. She's clearly nervous. He gestured towards the witness. Now, Miss Harvest, would you mind revising your testimony to match the actual time? He asked her calmly and collected, like usual. He didn't seem too nervous by the turn of events. The judge nodded. You has a point, Mr. Wright. Objection overruled. Do try to be less paranoid about the time. Please provide your testimony, Miss Harvest. All right, Carrot said, her voice shaking a tiny bit. Witness testimony. Carrot took a few moments to collect herself before she began restating her testimony. It was about 10 o'clock a.m. Later, when I returned home, I did notice Derpy with a large amount of muffins. I asked her about it, and she said she was never in the bakery, which I found hard to believe. All right, Mr. Wright, you may begin your cross-examination, the judge stated. Phoenix nodded, as Carrot began restating what she said previously. Cross-examination. It was about 10 o'clock a.m. Later when I returned home, I did notice Derpy with largemouth muffins. I asked her about it, and she said she was never in no bakery, which I found hard to believe. Hold it! Phoenix shouted once again, startling Karen a bit. Why did you find it hard to believe exactly? Don't you trust your roommate? Karen now looked a bit miffed, especially at Derpy. Well, I do, but not when muffins are involved. Whenever I go out and buy some muffins, they're only gone 2 minutes after I put them away. Don't you have any idea how aggravating that is? Derpy looked down, tears in her eyes. She was obviously feeling guilty for making Carrot so angry. I'm sorry, Carrot. She then sniffed a little bit. Phoenix put a hoof on Derpy's shoulder and continued speaking. Also, she said she was never at the bakery, and you said you couldn't make out who was stealing the muffins. Maybe Derpy could explain where she got all of her muffins? Edgeworth perked up a bit when she heard that supposedly Derpy had never been at the bakery. My thoughts exactly, Mr. Wright, the prosecutor had said. If the suspect had a valuable alibi, then the whole case could be changed. That is, it is not simply a cover-up story, of course. Miss Holmes, if you could please explain where you were at 10 o'clock a.m. on this particular day in question, and where you obtained such a large amount of muffins if not in the bakery. Derpy then stood up and took the stand, wiping her eyes with her hoof. Well, I was at the bakery, but I didn't steal anything. I know I have my muffin problem, but I never steal from the bakery. I know sometimes I can't help myself, but I never steal for a business. Starting to tear up even more. I didn't know I bought a carrot top that much. She sniffled a bit. Phoenix then looked at her. Would you mind telling us where you got the muffins and why? Derpy looked a bit reluctant at first, and then sighed. I bought them from the bakery. I was planning on making a muffin treat basket for Carrot Top as a thank you for letting me live with her. Carrot then gasped a tiny bit. She felt awful for testifying against her now. Derpy, she said, why keep it a secret? Don't you know that would only make you look even more suspicious? Derpy sighed again. It was supposed to be a surprise. Edgeworth nodded slightly, a small frown on his face. So suspect claims he was merely buying the treats rather than stealing. However, this brings up 2 points. One, there's still the matter of who stole from filthy, Mr. Rich. And 2, it should be noticed that the suspect claimed to have never been to the bakery, despite her now just having admitted it. Phoenix nodded and began to respond. For point 1, I think I may have a suspicion for that. As for point 2, Derpy said she was trying to keep her buying the muffin a secret so she could surprise her friend. However, that also means she was lying under oath. He then laughed nervously, and Twilight faced Hoof at that. Every pony has their flaws, she supposed. And Twilight nodded her head. After that, I'll have to penalize you, Mr. Wright. Phoenix looked a little embarrassed. Understandable, Your Honor. Edgeworth then crossed his hoof slightly. You have a suspicion on who might be the true culprits, Mr. White? He asked. Would you care to elaborate more on this line of thought? Phoenix seemed to immediately regain his confidence when Edgeworth asked that. I have more than that. I can prove that Filthy Rich most likely set up Derpy as revenge. My client said he was rather angry with her because she accidentally made a mistake on delivery. It's a perfect motive to frame said pony. The guy became speaking on this, and this time was a bit louder than a dull roar. John made his gavel to quiet them. Order! Order, court, I say! He then looked down at Phoenix. That's a pretty bold claim, Mr. Wright. Twilight and Applejack narrowed their eyes at Phoenix. It was a very bold claim. You would need a lot of evidence to back it up. Filthy Rich, who was sitting next to Edgeworth, narrowed his eyes at Phoenix. Then he made this claim. This made him even angrier, and when police called him by his first name, he really needed to change that. He looked like he was about to say something, then simply turned to Edgeworth. He then nodded slightly. That is a rather bold claim, Mr. Wright, the prosecutor said, chilling calm to his voice. Tell me, do you have any evidence to back up this claim, other than your client's insistence Otherwise, I'm afraid there is no reason to continue this line of progression, and we'll be back to square one with Miss Hooves as our prime suspect. Phoenix nodded, not showing any signs of nervousness. I do have something to back up my claim. He picked up some pieces of paper in his hooves. Then he read them as he spoke. We all know that Mr. Rich can be a bit miserly, and we know that my clients had to perform a delivery for it. And as we all know, she messed it up. At that remark, her cheek flushed a hot red. She ducked for cover behind Phoenix's desk. And the failed delivery could cause a lot of money to be lost. And something tells me Mr. Rich wouldn't like that very much at all. I see your point, said the judge. However, I have not seen any proof. Twilight slammed his tooth down on his desk. Your Honor, I can prove that Mr. Rich set all of this up, if you allow him to testify. The judge then put a hoof to his chin. He said in thought. At first I thought this would be an open and shut case, and I'd be given my verdict by now. However, I'm not so sure. Very well. Mr. Edgeworth, will you please call Filthy Rich to the stand? Filthy cringed a bit when he was requested to take the stand. He looked at Edgeworth simply, who glared at the moment, anticipating something only viewpoints would likely be able to hear and read on his lips, before turning up to the judge. Yes, of course, Your Honor. Mr. Filthy Rich, please take the stand, he had said. Twilight, Applejack whispered. Did y'all hear what Edgeworth said to Mr. Rich? Twilight looked at her friend confused. Well, what do you mean? I didn't hear anything. Applejack leaning close to her alcove friend. Before Filthy stood up, the prosecutor to whisper something to him. It sounded like, if it was you, I'd leave you to your fate. Twilight put a hoof to her chin and thought that. One not thing for a prosecutor to say to his client, especially a prosecutor like Edgeworth. By this point, Mr. Rich was already up at the stand. The judge nodded his head. For prosecution, you may begin questioning the witness. Edgeworth nodded and looked at Mr. Rich. Very well, Your Honor. Witness, name and occupation, please. Filthy smiled a bit. Name's Filthy Rich, owner of Barnyard Bargains, he said, almost as he was advertising his own business. Edgeworth then continued. Right. The large chain department stores located all through Equestria. It sounds like you have a pretty successful business, Mr. Filthy. Filthy frowned at that. I do, and I prefer to be called Mr. Rich. And just smirked lightly at that. And so you do. My apologies. Meanwhile, Phoenix put a hoof on his desk, listening intently to what Rich was saying. While Derby was just peering at Filthy and then Rich nervously, she then looked over at Carrot Top, who at this point was sitting over in the gallery, looking down and feeling ashamed of herself. Filthy glared at Edgeworth as the prosecutor continued. So, Mr. Rich, perhaps you can explain to us what exactly you know of the crime and why you expect this man to be the prime suspect? After all, as I understand it, there is a certain man working in the bakery in question that likely could have done it as well. Applejack sighed that. I'd like to say that Pinky wouldn't do such a thing, but I wouldn't put past her as an accident, sputtered Twilight. Very well, Rich said to Edgeworth. Witness testimony. Rich cleared his throat before he began. I put in a large order of muffins the other day for CQ Corner, the most successful bakery in Ponyville. My daughter's birthday's coming up, and I figured a large supply of muffins would make good party treats. Given their reputation for making delicious treats, I figured that would be a good place to order from. Now I'm quite aware of the proprietors of Baking Apprentice under their care, who is known for occasionally eating the products on occasion. They ensured she would not be present at the time of my pickup. However, when I went to do so, I found my order destroyed, with the only pony I visited this particular day being none other than the suspect. The judge put a hoof to his chin and thought. He began. I see. I can't find anything wrong with that testimony. Sophie gasped nervously, and Phoenix had a shocked expression on his face. Wait, Your Honor, I assure you, something in that testimony doesn't add up, he explained, determined to get his point across. Just let me cross-examine, please! The judge then rolled his eyes. Alright, fine, Mr. Wright, you may cross-examine this witness. Edgeworth nodded. For your sake, Mr. Wright, I hope you do. Cross-examination. I put in large order of muffins the other day for Sugar Cube Corner. No successful bakery in Ponyville. Hold it! Phoenix put a hoof to his chin. Sugar Cube Corner? Yes. How did you know exactly that it was most successful? Mr. Rich simply smiled. Why, it's common knowledge around these parts, he said with a grin. While there are other bakeries in Ponyville, none are quite as well known as Sugar Cube Corner. Despite being ran by one married couple and a rather untalented apprentice. Applejack was forcing herself with every fiber not to stand an outburst about Filthy's rather mean-spirited comment about Pinky, but managed to keep herself in check when Twilight put a hoof on her shoulder. She and every pony who knew her was well aware that Pinky's baking skills had used to be rather bad due to her strange sense of taste. But they would also know that her skills had grown greatly in the past year. She had no idea if her friend was there, but she was certainly hoping, not hearing upon that Edgeworth slightly. It's true, Mr. White, Sugar Cube Corner does get the most income of any Ponyville's bakeries as such, making it fact, though I'm unsure how this is relevant to the case. Phoenix rubbed the back of his head with a hoof, smiling slightly. Is it? The judge shook his head. Mr. Wright, he said, please try to ask questions relevant to this case. Alright, Mr. Rich, you may continue. My daughter's birthday is coming up, and I figured a large supply of muffins would make good party treats. Hold it! Just how far away is your daughter's birthday? He asked. A few days, Mr. Wright. I would like for those treats to be rather fresh, hence why I wanted to pick them up yesterday, he responded without missing a beat. I suppose that does make sense, Phoenix responded. Alright, keep going. He nodded. Given their reputation for making delicious treats, I figured it would be a good place to order from. Hold it! Was Sugar Cube Corner the first place you checked out? With a smile at that. Only the best, my little girl, he smiled heartily. Okay, please continue, Phoenix said, nodding. No, I'm quite aware that the proprietors have a baking apprentice under their care who is known for usually eating the products on occasion. Hold it! Then why pin it on Derpy? Wouldn't this apprentice be the guilty culprit? I was getting to that, boy! Rich shouted. Edgeworth nodded agreement. Yes, Mr. Wright, do try to be more patient. The judge nodded. Yes, Mr. Wright, do try to contain that temper of yours. Phoenix looked dumbfounded. I have a temper? He thought to himself. They ensured you would not be present at the time of my pickup. Phoenix simply nodded, signaling him to keep going. However, when I went to do so, I found my order destroyed, with the only pony that had visited this particular day being none other than the suspect. Objection! Do you have any proof that it was Derpy? Phoenix asked with a smirk. The muffins could have been eaten by any pony. Also, my client stated that she was only there to buy her own stuff and muffins for her friend. Filthy cringed slightly at this. Well, objection! Edgeworth exclaimed, pointing his hoof to Phoenix. Perhaps not physical proof, Mr. Wright, but this witness states he was told by store proprietor that the suspect had only been only customer that morning. Who else could it be? Please again. Yeah! He's right, he thought to himself. I had to think. Who else could have been in the store? Twilight and Applejack noticed Phoenix stumbling. They both began to think of who else could have been in the store. If only there was something they could do to help. Edgeworth just shook his head and moved his forelegs in that wide-legged gesture. Well, Mr. Wright, you have no idea on who else it could be? I see no reason we should continue down the line of thought. Objection! A rather high-pitched voice rang out. Edge's eyes widened as he heard that. What? Who said that? Applejack and Twilight's eyes widened. They knew that voice. It was one of their best friends, after all. Twilight leaned into Applejack. This could either be really good for Phoenix, she whispered, or really bad. A light pink mare with a mane that was darker shade, taking a poofy form that brought on the thought of cotton candy to mind. Her key mark was that of 3 balloons. The one in the center raised higher than the others, in yellow, while the others were blue. She took the coin with a serious expression before it quickly changed to a big, dopey grin.
I always wanted to say that. Objection! Overruled! Hold it! Take that!
She shouted, doing the appropriate gestures. The judge just stared at this mare, wide-eyed at the display. Excuse me, young lady, he began. Who are you, and what are you doing out of the gallery? Phoenix's eyes widened. He had a plan. It was all thanks to this strange mare. Your Honor, he pointed at the pink mare, I request the prosecution call this pink mare to the stand. Edwards looked at the eccentric mare, and then the Phoenix. First, I would like to know this mare's name and relevance in this case. The pink mare's grinned.
I'm Pea Pie, she exclaimed, and I'm the untalented apprentice for the testimony.
Go! Edwards shouted, a bit taken back by Pinky's words. But wait, are you saying that you were at the store at the same time as those events? Pinky then vigorously shook her head.
Nubby, loopy!
Edwards looked ready to continue, but still Pinky held the hoof in front of his face.
But I can give you information about the morning before I left.
Edwards nodded slightly. I see. Your Honor, what would your thoughts be? Do you believe it would be worthwhile for me to call Miss Pye to the stand? Miss Wright certainly does. The judge put his chin and thought. She could hold some vital information. Also, I find her giddiness rather ecstatic. The judge said with a smile. Very well, Mr. Wright. She shall be considered a witness in this case. Edwards nodded. Very well then, he said. Miss Pye, would you please take the stand? He then bounced up to the side, excitedly, giggling slightly. Edward frowned slightly at this. Miss Pye, if you could, please try to maintain some hint of seriousness while at the stand. He then tried to attempt a straight face.
Serious! Get it!
She exclaimed. Would the witness begin her testimony then? Witness testimony.
Yesterday morning, I woke up, did my early morning stretches, and then fed Gummy. It was then time for breakfast, so...
Objection! Ezra shouted, and then slammed a hoof at his desk. Witness, how is this all relevant? Pinky giggled a bit.
I'm telling you what happened yesterday morning,
she said gleefully. Edwards then placed a hoof in his face in frustration. The judge was chuckling slightly, but quickly tried to hide it when he noticed Edward's frustration. Well, technically, she isn't breaking any rules, so I'll allow it, he said. If only she skipped the parts that were relevant, Phoenix thought to himself. Edwards shook his head slightly. Very well, continue. Pinky grinned.
Okay, so I woke up, did my early morning stretches, and then fed Gummy. It was then time for breakfast, so I went downstairs to get my cereal. I then entertained the twins for a while before Mrs. Cake reminded me of my day off. I didn't let the store to go find my friends for the day.
The judge said. Alright, everything seems to be in order. That testimony was a bit vague, Phoenix said in his head. Mr. Wright, the judge said, you may begin your cross-examination. Gladly, Phoenix exclaimed. Cross-examination.
Okay, so I woke up, did my early morning stretches, and fed Gummy.
Hold it! Gummy? Wright asked. Who's Gummy? Pinky grinned wider even more than that.
Oh, he's my pet alligator.
Alligator? Phoenix stammered. What a strange pet! Pinky simply smiled at the same goofy white grin.
Yup, he's the most adorable little guy.
Edwards then remarked, Miss Pye, do you think it's rather dangerous to own such a pet? Pinky vigorously shook her head.
Nubbity-dubbity-wubbity-wubbity! Gummy won't hurt anybody. He's as friendly as can be.
But even so, would not the teeth of alligator present a problem? Yes, Pinky giggled.
Oh no, he doesn't have any teeth. He's just a baby, so he has gums. No sharp pointy teeth in sight. Hence Gummy.
I see, the judge said with a smirk on his face. I'm honored to meet this Gummy sometime, but first we continue their testimony, Miss Pye.
Okie dokie dokie. You love him, Judgy.
He said with a smile.
It was night time for breakfast, so we went downstairs to get my cereal.
Hold it! Did you have to see anyone else in the bakery when we went downstairs for breakfast? Phoenix asked, putting the hoof in his chin. Pinky put a hoof in her chin and thought as well. She said thinking.
Nope, just the regulars. Mr. and Mrs. Cakes and the twins.
She laughed. So you're absolutely sure that you were the only one there? Phoenix asked. Pinky looked a bit confused by this.
But I wasn't the only one there that morning. Gummy was there. And Mr. and Mrs. Cake and the twins and neither Garrett nor Derby visited until after I had left.
She said, seeming a bit exasperated. Ezra smiled slightly, tapping his forehead slightly before then saying, I think I understand what the witness is trying to say. He then turned to the mayor and pointed to her. Miss Pie, please tell me if I'm understanding this correctly.
Okie dokie wookie!
Pinky then turned to him. You mean to say that you did the morning activities as per usual?
What?
Pinky replied. Before being reminded that you had a day off from work by your employer, he continued.
Warmer?
She said, seeming a bit more excited. And you say there have been no customers before you leave, meaning Miss Harvest and the suspect could not have been there until after you leave. Pinky nodded vigorously.
You're right, huh? What's that mean, Edgy?
You seem slightly taken aback. Edgy? She frowned.
No, your eyes cold. You were so close.
She shook her head. What I meant, Miss Pie, was you mean to say there were two other ponies present at the store and could provide us with testimony despite your inability to be able to do so. Your employers! Pinky grinned enthusiastically.
Edgy's a winner!
Said clapping her wildly in excitement. This would be the part where Phoenix would protest against Edward's claims, but two new witnesses might just be what he needed to gain the upper hand in this trial. The judge put a hook to sit and thought, I see. So two new witnesses then? I declare that the trial shall reconvene tomorrow while we explain the circumstances of these two witnesses, and to give time for the prosecution and defense to gather evidence and prepare their arguments. He then banged his gavel. Court is adjourned! Well, since it's been almost an hour-long video, so I'm going to leave you with part 1 of Turnabout Muffin. So I hope you enjoyed it. This has been Asia Fluffy, and I will see you guys in part 2. See ya. Right, you have no idea on who else it could be? I see no reason we should continue down the line of thought. Objection! Rather high-pitched voice right now. And his eyes widened as he heard that. What? Who said that? Applejack and Twilight's eyes widened. They knew that voice. It was one of their best friends, after all. Twilight leaned into Applejack. This could either be really good for Phoenix, she whispered, or really bad. A light pink mare with a mane that was dark as shade, taking a poofy form that brought on the thought of cotton candy to mind. Her key mark was that of 3 balloons. The one in the center raised higher than the others, in yellow, while the others were blue. She took the cord with a serious expression before it quickly changed to a big, dopey grin.
I always wanted to say that. Objection! Overruled! Hold it! Take that!
She sounded, doing the appropriate gestures. The justice stared at this mare, wide-eyed at the display. Excuse me, young lady, he began. Who are you, and what are you doing out of the gallery? Phoenix's eyes widened. He had a plan. It was all thanks to this strange mare. Your Honor, he pointed to the pink mare, I request the prosecution call this pink mare to the stand. Edward looked at the eccentric mare, and then the Phoenix. First, I would like to know this mare's name and relevance to this case. The pink mare grinned.
I'm Pea Pie,
she exclaimed,
and I'm the untalented apprentice for the testimony.
Go! Edward shouted, a bit taken back by Pinky's words. But wait, are you saying that you were at the store at the same time as those events? Pinky then vigorously shook her head.
Loopy!
Edward looked ready to continue, and so Pinky held it over in front of his face.
But I need information about the morning before I left.
Edward nodded slightly. I see. Your Honor, what would your thoughts be? Do you believe it would be worthwhile for me to call Miss Pie to the stand? Miss Wright certainly does. The judge pursued his chin and thought. She could hold some vital information. Also, I find her genuineness rather ecstatic. The judge said with a smile. Very well, Mr. Wright. She shall be considered a witness in this case. Ezra nodded. Very well then, he said. Miss Pie, would you please take the stand? He then bounced up to the side excitedly, giggling slightly. Edward frowned slightly at this. Miss Pye, if you could, please try to maintain some hint of seriousness while I stand. Pinky then tried to have a straight face.
Serious! Get it!
She exclaimed. Would the witness begin her testimony then? Witness testimony.
Yesterday morning, I woke up, did my early morning stretches, and then fed Gummy. It was then time for breakfast, so...
Objection! Ezra shouted, and then slammed a hoof at his desk. Witness, how is this all relevant? Pinky giggled a bit.
I'm telling you what happened yesterday morning,
she said gleefully. Edwards then placed a hoof in his face in frustration. The judge was chuckling slightly, but quickly tried to hide it when he noticed Edward's frustration. Well, technically, she isn't breaking any rules, so I'll allow it, he said. If only she skipped the parts that were relevant, Phoenix thought to himself. Edward shook his head slightly. They will continue. Pinky grinned.
Okay, so I woke up, did my early morning stretches, and then fed Gummy. It was then time for breakfast, so I went downstairs to get my cereal. I then entertained the twins for a while before Mrs. Cake reminded me of my day off. I didn't let the store to go find my friends for today.
The judge said. Alright, everything seems to be in order. That testimony was a bit vague, Phoenix said in his head. Mr. Wright, the judge said, you may begin your cross-examination. Gladly, Phoenix exclaimed. Cross-examination.
Okay, so I woke up, did my early morning stretches, and fed Gummy.
Hold it! Gummy? Wright asked. Who's Gummy? Pinky grinned wider even more than that.
Oh, he's my pet alligator.
Alligator? Phoenix stammered. What a strange pet! Pinky simply smiled at the same goofy white grin.
Yup, he's the most adorable little guy.
Edwards then remarked, Miss Pye, do you think it's rather dangerous to own such a pet? Pinky vigorously shook her head.
Nubbity-dubbity-wubbity-wubbity! Gummy won't hurt anybody. He's as friendly as can be.
But even so, would not the teeth of alligator present a problem? Yes, Pinky giggled.
Oh no, he doesn't have any teeth. He's just a baby, so he has gums. No sharp pointy teeth in sight. Hence Gummy.
I see, the judge said with a smirk on his face. I'm minded to meet this Gummy sometime, but first we continue their testimony, Miss Pye.
Okie dokie dokie. You love him, Judgy. He
said with a smile.
It was then time for breakfast, so we went downstairs to get my cereal.
Hold it! Did you have to see anyone else in the bakery when we went downstairs for breakfast? Phoenix asked, putting the hoof in his chin. Pinky put a hoof in her chin and thought as well. She said thinking.
Nope, just the regulars. Mr. and Mrs. Cakes and the twins.
She laughed. So you're absolutely sure that you were the only one there? Phoenix asked. Pinky looked a bit confused by this.
But I wasn't the only one there that morning. Gummy was there. And Mr. and Mrs. Cake and the twins and neither Garrett nor Derby visited until after I had left.
She said, seeming a bit exasperated. Ezra smiled slightly, tapping his forehead slightly before then saying, I think I understand what the witness is trying to say. He then turned to the mayor and pointed his suit to her. Miss Pye, please tell me if I'm understanding this correctly.
Okie dokie dokie.
Pinky then turned to him. You mean to say that you did the morning activities as per usual?
What?
Pinky replied. Before being reminded that you had a day off from work by years prior, he continued.
Warmer?
She said, seeming a bit more excited. And you say there have been no customers before you leave, meaning Miss Harvest and the suspect could not have been there until after you leave. Pinky nodded vigorously.
You're right, huh? What's that mean, edgy?
You seemed slightly taken aback. Edgy? She frowned.
No, your eyes cold. You were so close.
She shook her head. What I meant, Miss Pye, was you mean to say there were two other ponies present at the store and could provide us with testimony despite your inability to be able to do so. Your employers! Pinky grinned enthusiastically.
Ding, ding, ding! Edgy's a winner!
Said clapping her wildly in excitement. This would be the part where Phoenix would protest against Edward's claims, but two new witnesses might just be what he needed to gain the upper hand in this trial. The judge put a hoop to sit and thought. I see. So tune the witnesses in. I declare that the trial shall reconvene tomorrow while we explain the circumstances of these two witnesses, and to give time for the prosecution and defense to gather evidence and prepare their arguments. He then banged his gavel. Court is adjourned. Well, since it's been almost an hour-long video, so I'm going to leave you with part 1 of Turnabout Muffin. So I hope you enjoyed it. This has been Agent Fluffy, and I will see you guys in part 2. See ya. Edgy.